Good morning, and I'm just about 3, 4 minutes late this morning. But welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. We got a little rain out there this morning, uh, here in Sacramento, anyway, and it's a bit chilly. I'm looking forward to it warming up uh, because I don't always like to be in turtlenecks and sweaters and things like that. Anyway, but welcome. And usually we like to do something kind of fun on Saturday morning cartoons. Uh, but it doesn't always work out that way. They're all fun. Okay, they're all fun. Um, the I've been it's been brought to my attention that the character that I invented, Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford, who is a Kabbalistic rabbi, just right out of my own imagination. Uh, Nevertheless, the two books that are associated with his use as a pseudoepigraphic character, the Chicken Kabbalah and the Son of Chicken Kabbalah, have, to my surprise, been uh, surprisingly well received over the years. I think I wrote Chicken Kabbalah back in 2001, and it still is still is a popular Kabbalah book. And to tell you the truth, it's one of the efforts, my publishing efforts or my writing efforts, that I am particularly proud of. Uh, but it's the fact that it's been well received, the fact that it's been translated into Chinese and all sorts of, and a few other languages and stuff. There are those that are at least questioning whether Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford actually lived or lives. And it's amusing, but at the same time, I'd like to make it clear, and I thought I made it clear in the my little confession in the book, right at the very beginning of the book, where I say, no, I wrote it. I wrote it. And let's see. Early on, I discovered that I could quickly convey fundamentals of Kabbalah, especially Hermetic Kabbalah for ceremonial magicians and stuff, at a Monday night magic class, okay, using simple anecdotes and metaphors. As years progress, these homespun tales have become increasingly colorful, outrageous, and in my humble opinion, quite amusing. Okay, I've shared this with you before. Moreover, students and critics repeatedly tell me they seem to absorb and retain the information more efficiently and have a better chance of staying awake when the material is presented to them in this manner. So when I began to organize the material for this book, I realized that the vast majority of readers would not be familiar with my personality and subtle nuances of comedic timing. I knew that if I were going to plunge the unsuspecting reader directly into the waters of my Kabbalistic fairyland, the poor souls would immediately imagine themselves drowned in pure silliness. So I turned to a literary device that has a long and distinguished history in Kabbalistic literature: pseudoepigraphy. I don't know how to pronounce that, but pseudo, as in fake, graphy, pseudepi, phonyish writings. Or, here's the technical definition, the ascription of false names of authors to certain works. Now, this has a long history in Hebrew religious literature or Jewish religious literature. Revered Hebrew scholar Gershom Scholem wrote, "For a long time we've known that literary forgeries represent a flight into anonymity and pseudonymity, just as often as they indicate trickery. And it's not for nothing that we've retained the foreign word pseudoepigraphy, pseudoepigrapha, to designate in particular a legitimate category of religious literature." And get this is Gershom Scholem. The Zohar is the most important, but not by far the only example of such love of masquerade in Jewish literature. So I decided to do just what Rabbi Moshe de Leon did when he wrote the Zohar in the 13th century. He credited the authorship to a fictitious holy man, Rabbi Shimon ben Yohai. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, and the rabbi doesn't care. Okay, for my purposes, I invented Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford, the legendary l'enfant terrible of the modern Kabbalistic movement. Ben Clifford has afforded me the opportunity to soar to outrageous and hopefully memorable heights, and when necessary, stand apart from the silliness to highlight the golden eggs of Kabbalistic wisdom nested therein. This may smack of a bit of schizophrenia, and I must admit I've enjoyed being the rabbi's biographer and critic. Okay, I go on to say, confess that I did that. Now, that being said, and I thought I made that perfectly clear in the introduction, one of my dearest friends on earth is the record producer and rock star. There's no other way for me to say it. Mr. Rodney Orpheus. Okay, we've been friends for many years. We share the same occult interests and things. We met in Aachen, Germany, a number of years ago. And we climbed up on a stack of chairs stacked to the ceiling of this large room and swung a Japanese sword around. He's crazy, and I really, really love Rodney Orpheus. And he's written several very good books on the magic of Aleister Crowley and group rituals of Aleister Crowley and a classic work called Abrahadabra. So if you haven't looked in and read the works of Rodney Orpheus, do so, please. He's not only a rock star, he's a star of the magic of Thelema. That being said, okay, when I wrote the Chicken Kabbalah, I sent Rodney a file of it, let him read it. I said, would you write an introduction to it? And hoping that he would, to lend some credibility to my book. And so he wrote an introduction to it, okay? And his introduction to the Chicken Kabbalah of Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford is worth the price of admission itself, okay? And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you at all. I'm just going to read just the very first part of it, okay, just to give you an idea of where he's going to go with this. So this is my life with the rabbi. Now, I went to great lengths to say, look, I wrote this book. The rabbi, I made him up, just like, Moses de Leon made up. So here's how he starts. Let me begin by saying that no matter what Mr. DuQuette may be obliged to say in his introductory words, Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford was real. I, perhaps more than anyone on earth, understand the author's reasons for choosing to infer that the text represents a pseudoepigraphic effort of his own. To men and women of integrity, a spiritual oath of secrecy is a serious and burdensome commitment, and Mr. DuQuette, by means of this elaborate literary charade, has obviously fulfilled his obligations admirably. I, on the other hand, am bound by no such covenants, and because I, too, am compiling a record of the events of my life with the Master, I'm grateful to Mr. DuQuette for allowing me to share some of my memories. It was a wet and stormy night. Believe it or not, this is mostly true. It was a wet and stormy night when I first met Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford. I was a young chela of an occult order, then attending initiations in a beautiful old German town. I remember the moment distinctly. I was standing on a stack of chairs, wielding a huge Japanese katana, swinging it around with ease to impress the assembled neophytes with my skill in Oriental arts. Yeah, that's how we met. Okay. Pretty much like that, okay. When I was approached by a rotund figure, his beard wafting in the breeze from my blade. Little brother, he commented. He commanded me in a loud voice, you have been meddling with the Kabbalah. The throng around me seemed to shrink away at his imperious, if somewhat squeaky voice. I stood transfixed by his gaze, the sword held high above my head. For a long second, there was no sound. No, I haven't, I stated calmly. He has a beautiful Irish accent, Rodney does. Okay. No, I haven't, I stated calmly, but I don't mind having it meddle with me. Okay. If you haven't read that part of the Chicken Kabbalah, it's worth getting the Chicken Kabbalah. What I'm going to do just for the next couple minutes is because this is something that I've never shared with you before. I was just going through the end notes. Okay, I like footnotes. Okay, in a book, footnotes on the same page, down at the bottom of the same page that the note is referencing. But publishers, okay, publishers like endnotes. And it's a pain in the ass to go back and forth and back and forth. But publishers like it. It's a long story. But I was just reading the end notes at the very end, knowing what they're referring to, sort of, in my mind, generally speaking. But they're pretty good, too. And I'm just going to read you a few of the end notes to the Chicken Kabbalah of Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford. And here's a footnote, or an end note, concerning the rabbi saying, there is no such thing as correct Hebrew pronunciation. So a statement like that deserves a note, okay? The rabbi's dogmatic attitude concerning the pronunciation of Hebrew words made him the target of ridicule from nearly all quarters of the Kabbalistic community. Depending on the dialect, there are, of course, many correct ways to pronounce Hebrew words. However, the point I believe Ben Clifford was trying to make is that so far as the study of Kabbalah is concerned, pronunciation is ultimately irrelevant. Arguing over it is a waste of precious time. By assuming this cavalier attitude, the chicken Kabbalist enjoys the exhilarating level of spiritual freedom to pursue the more important aspects of the work. Okay. And here's a endnote from chapter 2 concerning the Hebrew letters and the use of the Hebrew letters as a code. The letters being numbers and words forming numbers of their own, which have mathematical resonance with other words of the exact. Okay, I was getting into that. It is a Kabbalistic mystery of the highest order that the three letters Ein, we were talking about the three veils of the negative, Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or, which is like nothing, nothing defined and limitless, nothing. Okay, there's three ways you can look at nothing, and those three words, Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or, try to describe those. Would you excuse me for a second? Oh no, I'm terribly sorry. Did you hear? There was a big explosion, yes. Oh no, no one survived. Yeah, the crater was immediately filled in because it burst the main water main. No fish. No. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh no. Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Bye bye. Talking about Ain. Ain, A-I-N. Okay, and there's three letters. Aleph, Yod, Nun. Okay. Ain meaning not or negative existence. When reordered to spell A-N-I, okay, shuffle the letters of the word that means negative existence, but A-N-I becomes the Hebrew word for I, myself. Okay, that was just one little example there. Now, wouldn't that have been better right on the page itself? So, okay. Then Rabbi Ben Clifford had his own translation of the famous Kabbalistic book, the Sefer Yetzirah. Let's see. Ben Clifford's translation of the Sefer Yetzirah says, quote, deity created the universe with three imaginary friends, numbers, letters, and words, in 32 mysterious paths of wisdom. They consist of 10 sephiroth out of nothing and of 22 letters. That was a pretty good translation, actually. Now, this footnote number 5, I think it's probably from one of the Ten Commandments. It says, there really isn't a time and space, heaven and earth, but there is a you. Okay. And I think that's this footnote. At least I am real. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure about you. Now that's a bumper sticker. Okay. Okay, then all of these Kabbalistic exercises, connecting numbers to letters and words and mathematical harmonics and stuff, sounds like sometimes people on the street corner are spouting things like that. Said, isn't this a recipe for madness? Wake up. You're already crazy and blind, deaf, and dumb to boot. And that's okay. I'm going to just read one more because I didn't even think I was going to take this much time. Let's see. Hang on. Editor's note. Ben Clifford claimed that when he was born, his mother, who at the time was a groupie with the Cliffy Eben Klezmer Band, was unsure exactly who fathered her child. She wished to name him El, after God. But her colleagues cautioned her that to do so might be considered blasphemy. So instead she named him simply L, the letter L, which in English is pronounced L, and is rendered Lamed in Hebrew. I thought that was cute. One other thing here, and then we'll stop. It's a little discussion in the book about the concept of God the Father. Now, that's a really big thing in Christianity. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which has great, wonderful, metaphysical, cosmic significance that's universally cool, okay? But this idea that got itself crystallized in society and government as monstrous patriarchal dominance that is God is a father with a giant cosmic penis kind of thing has been very, very unhealthy. Okay. and in Christianity, they sort of base their credentials for this on Judaism. We started as Jesus was a Jew, and he talked about the Father, and he said, but he never said he's the Son of God. Okay, he always said he was the Son of Man, even in the corrupted Gospels that have come down to us. He always called himself the Son of Man. Okay. Be that as it may, this footnote. It might surprise you to know that traditionally the concept of God as a father is foreign to the ancient Jewish mind. Abraham was the father of the Jews and the father figure to the Jews. In the Bible, Abraham never referred to God as father. Neither did Noah, Moses, Elijah, Elias, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Amos, Jonas, Solomon, Ezra, or Nehemiah. In fact, in the entire Old Testament, there are only 2 verses in the book of Isaiah and 1 Psalm of David that make reference to the father-like qualities of deity. Okay. I'm getting a bigger kick out of the end notes than I am the book today. Anyway, that's it. That's it for today for Saturday morning cartoons. I guess it's bled over into sort of like a Sunday school lesson. Be that as it may, I hope you continue to have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And I'll hopefully see you tomorrow for Sunday school. Until then, continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.